This is Report to Wyoming.
For this episode, I chat with David Hulshizer, the Executive Director at the Youth Crisis Center, and joining us is the Program Manager, Cheyenne Hyatt, and the Administrative Coordinator, Lynn, Sweazy. They explain everything going on with their center and a new grant they received to do some good for youth in crisis. After I talked to them, I went down to their location on 12th Street, and I got a chance to check out the facility in person. I put together a photo gallery, so you can check it out at k2radio.com.
Yes, we're actually coming up on our 40-year anniversary next year, so we're excited. We originally started 3 different locations a long time ago, including the Youth Crisis Center, which was on McKinley Street across from Washington Park. And then we had the Henry Home and the Mills Home, which were in separate parts of Casper as well. So 2014, we entered into an agreement with the city of Casper where they donated the property. It's their property. We raised the funds, built the building, and then donated it to the city, in which we leased it back for however that works. So,
and this is for housing?
It is for emergency housing, crisis housing, group home housing, yes.
How many teens can it house?
We are technically licensed. When we have our full licensure, we could be at 30 beds. Right now, I think we're currently licensed for 25, beds is roughly what we're at now. But we divide into different wings. So the primary wing that we were granted through the federal grant is our crisis shelter or emergency shelter program. And that was our crisis wing, and that actually has 12 beds in it.
What would qualify someone for the crisis center?
A runaway youth, a homeless youth, a parent placement that is having a hard time with a kiddo where they just, the kid needs a break, parents need break. A lot of times we're being utilized more as placement for law enforcement rather than the detention center, just because I think we're a little bit more appropriate than JDC in several circumstances. So we work a lot with local law enforcement, Casper Police Department, the Toronto County Sheriff's Office, Mills Police Department, Evansville Police Department will oftentimes brings kids to us almost on a daily basis. We'll see law enforcement.
And how long do kids usually stay?
So for our average length of stay right now is we're between 8.5 and 9 days. I would say about 9 days they usually stay with us in our crisis shelter. Now our group home is a little bit longer.
Our group home is about 4 to 9 months or 6 to 9 months, depending on the situation of the kid.
Yeah, but that is a longer term program versus the crisis shelter, which is more of a stabilization and just an opportunity to get their feet under them and kind of help them relax and get the breath.
And then I wanted to ask you guys, too, here at the beginning, how each of you got involved with this nonprofit.
Well, I'll start with Lynn. She's been here longer than both Cheyenne and I.
I just happened to get lucky and find a job here when I moved here from out of state. I don't work directly with the youth. I'm more in the admin sector.
Okay.
And then Cheyenne is talking. I ended up at YECC. I was trying to utilize my degree. I have a master's in criminology and human behavior. So this was a good step in the direction that I wanted. And I also used to be a coach, so it really helps with hanging out with youth, and you can relate to them on multiple levels here. So.
Well, my story is a little bit different. So I'm a retired sheriff's deputy from here in Toronto County. I was a long-time investigator and spent a lot of years on patrol. So I was around when YCC was over on McKinley Street and when it moved over to this location on 12th Street. So I can remember numerous times of having to take protective custody of kiddos, and usually the older kiddos between 10 and 18 are ones that we would bring to YCC. And for me, it was always knowing that when I took protective custody of the kid that was going to YCC, I knew that they were going to be in a place that cared about the kids and was going to do their absolute best to provide them a safe environment, a healthy environment. And it was always, for me, it was peaceful knowing that taking them out of the home, which is not an ideal situation, but putting them into a safe situation at the YCC, at the Youth Crisis Center, was good, to be honest with you. So, and I always thought that if when I retired, if the opportunity came up to apply for a position here, to be part of YCC, I would do it. And lo and behold, the executive director position opened up, and I applied. I have a master's degree in public administration. I think that might be partly why the board saw that I could be qualified. But I don't have a social work background, but I have more of an administrative background.
Do you guys receive funds from the 1% tax?
We do. Actually, that's right now a little bit in flux with the city.
Right.
So historically, we have. Historically, we've been supported for a number of years, including through 1 cent 16, which is what we're currently under. We did apply for the 1 cent 17. We're talking with city council as to, a little bit more support and things like that. We do serve a lot of Casper youth, and we do serve a lot of the Casper Police Department.
Yeah, and another establishment that does something similar to you guys recently closed their doors. I'm wondering if, and I'm just wondering how challenging, I guess, it is to stay open. Are you able to find enough funding to do the things that you need to do to accomplish your mission?
To be honest with you, we can always utilize more funding. So there's multiple parts to this question. So let me talk to you a little bit about Mimi's House. We're a little bit different than Mimi's House in that we are state licensed by the Department of Family Services and have been for the duration of our existence. So Mimi's House was never licensed as a facility like ours, and we are the only ones in central Wyoming like this. So we actually are audited quite often by the state Department of Family Services to ensure that we are in compliance with rules, regulations, and that's when I say licensed beds, that's actually licensed for DFS. So when we say that we're an organization that's here to stay and serve the community, that's because we have done everything possible to continue to work well with the Department of Family Services, maintain our licensing, and continue on doing what we do. Because in all honesty, without YCC, this community would have no place to place kids in these type of situations.
It sounds like the need is very great. It's hard to put a number on it, but are you guys pretty much always full?
Yes, we are usually always full. We're seeing a lot of court placements as well, which is putting us above what. So there's your capacity, and then your what you actually can do based upon your staffing issues. So when you look at our staffing, we have to maintain certain ratios within that DFS licensing, or we can be in trouble and get fined or cited or shut down. So we have to maintain the client or resident staff ratios. So we have to make sure that we have enough funding to have enough staff here to handle all of our needs and all of the kiddos' needs in the community. So that is the truth about where we're at, is that we have to have X amount of employees to do things. We're a facility that is open 365 days a year, 24/7. So we don't. If you show up at 1 o'clock in the morning, there's staff here to intake a kiddo and give them a place to stay. And as for the funding, the funding's it's tough. We're always trying to find more funding to continue to grow in terms of our programs for kids, but also to maintain the programs that we have. And I know that they're talking about the 1 cent funds right now, and it is, it's a struggle because we're trying to really, we offer such a unique service to the city of Casper that, and not only that, but the county commissioners. We've also made presentations to the town of Mills and the town of Evansville, asking them for monies, operational costs, because we see kids from not only the county, which include Bar None, Midwest, Edgerton, but also we see kids from Mills and Evansville. And I'll be honest with you, Mills and Evansville and all of the government entities have been great to listening to us and are very empathetic to our needs here. I think, one of the difficulties is that, and to be 100% honest with you, is that we do get partial funding from the state. So the State Department of Family Services will pay us an allotment for the month for a crisis shelter. However, we haven't seen an increase in that since probably 2012. And we're part of a group called the Wyoming Youth Services Association. And that association does, I wouldn't say lobbying, but they work with legislators on our behalf to try to advocate for these youth and these youth programs. And what we're hearing from the state legislators is that they're apprehensive a little bit in adding additional monies to the crisis shelters because they feel that the communities need to step up and do more, and the community governments need to do a little bit more. And I think that until we can work that out and see maybe the cities and towns helping us a little bit more with funding. The state legislature is a little bit apprehensive on addressing the needs in the crisis shelters around the state.
And do you guys house only children from Natrona County or the Casper area?
No, we'll house kids from different places, but but that's on a rare occasion. Primarily, the most of the kids that we see are from Casper, then again Mills, Evansville, Natrona County. So the majority, I would say probably 98% of the kids that we see, 99% are from local community.
And what happens when you guys are at that capacity? And if you have to turn someone away, where do they go?
That we don't know. A lot of times the parents may end up just having to take them back home or find another solution. We try our best not to turn kids away, but it has been happening just because we're so full. We have capacity here at the organization in order to utilize more beds. Back in February, we did a presentation for the Natrona County Commissioners in regards to what we call a bridge program, which was to help alleviate some of the court placement kiddos from our crisis shelter and put them into our group home and provide group home funding or group home programming to them, because those kids are here waiting on a court date or what we call a bed date in a facility somewhere, usually 45 to 90 days, and they're not part of our group home program. They're just placed here because they want to avoid placing them at JDC. And we believe that placing them here is the best place because we can offer a lot more services. We can keep the kids in school, going to school. We transport kids to school every day. We pick them up. Our food services here at YCC is amazing. I'm going to tell you that coming from a law enforcement background, when you walk into a home and you open the refrigerator and you see what some of these kids have available or don't primarily have available to eat, you'll understand why our food service program is so important to us, because we want kids to come here and know that they're going to get fed really well. They're going to get good food, nutritious food, comfort food. They're not going to have to worry about, are they going to be able to get seconds? You know, we want that to be the least of their concerns so that they can start healing.
And then one of the big reasons I wanted to chat with you is to talk about the outreach program you guys are launching. When did this start coming to fruition?
So as part of our funding, we are opening ourselves up to a federal grant and considered a federal grant this year. So we applied for what's called the Basic Center Program through the Department of Youth and Family Services with the Federal Health and Human Services. And the program is a Basic Center Program, which we do, and it operates for runaway and homeless youth for upwards of 21 days in our center. And so we were granted that as a 3-year grant through the federal government. Now, there's a lot that goes with that we've had to learn. Process of all the paperwork and all the things that the feds need, but we're doing it and we're excited about it. And the outreach program is basically us getting with folks like yourself to promote and say, hey kids, if you need some place to go, we're here. We're here if you're homeless, if you're a runaway, if you need supplies, you know, we have, and I'll let Cheyenne talk a little bit about some of the supplies and some of the programming that we do, but even if a kiddo needs something to eat, we encourage them to stop in so that we can feed them. I mean, we're trying to be here for kids that need our help.
And so they don't have to be living there or at the homeless shelter to stop by and take advantage of these amenities?
No.
No, and when they are here, we really try to get them a lot of resources. So if we don't feel comfortable with them leaving, we can encourage kiddos to stay up to 21 days.
Yep.
And we can provide services for them. And if there's any resources we can get in line before that kiddo leaves, that would be great. We also have backpacks. So if we had a family come in and they were homeless, so we actually got a backpack for mom as well. And so we were able to give them food and just the toiletries, all necessities are in there, plus a blanket, hat, gloves, all of those things. So we try to pack those backpacks with as much as we can. So if a kiddo does leave, they have all those, but we also have clothes here that we get donated and stuff. So we will send a kid with, ample clothes if they need that as well. Hygiene products, and we also have an on-site therapist, so we can utilize her if they just need a little bit of help in the interim of what they're trying to figure out to do.
Where would they go, location-wise, to go and get a backpack or any of these other things?
Just at the Youth Crisis Center, they can come in and just let us know like their situation, and we will do an intake because that is a requirement, and then we have a tracking system that this grant uses for kiddos everywhere, just to make sure that we know that they're being taken care of or that they were homeless at one point. So they can just come in, and we don't really ask too many questions other than how can we help, and kind of go from there.
And when is this available?
24/7. Staff know about all of this, and then we do have 2 case managers on site as well that are willing to help out, and we do have an on-call person, so if staff don't know the proper procedure, then they can call on-call, and then we will help them through that process.
But it's currently, like, you guys have already launched the program?
Yep, we launched it. We were allotted the grant in September, so a lot of the first part of the grant was just getting the program up and running, and now we're really pushing forward with our outreach program.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you guys do things to kind of help with their education you mentioned? What about secondary ed and like thinking career forward?
Yeah, we do talk about like a lot of things we offer here with programming is this thing called life skills. So we originally, when a kiddo comes in, we have an assessment that asks some very basic things like how to create an email, like can you do laundry, like very basic day-to-day things so that kiddo has the knowledge to move forward. And then when it comes to life skills, our case managers look at these assessments, and then based on that, they can create like how to do a resume, how to apply for a job. If college is something that they are wanting to do, like we will get them hooked up with resources up there or take them to go get those tests done up at the college to do a placement test. So all of those things. So this assessment really helps us figure out what kids need, but they'll also let us know like they have no idea on a lot of things, and then they can do one-on-ones with that case manager to figure that out.
What else what do you think that people maybe don't know about you guys that you're doing?
I can definitely answer that one. They look at us as more of a punishment place, and I know a lot of parents view us as that, and that is not what we are. We are moving more towards a clinically based model where we're focused on mental health, and that is hitting our younger generation very hard. So when a kid comes here, we're not only here for the kiddo, we're here for that family. So we have meetings, and we try to give as many resources as we can, and our therapist who is here can also do family therapy, so they can have basically a lot of things they need in-house immediately. And it is a break, and we want parents to understand that, like, we definitely get it, but we want to just sit here and help them through any time that they're having in their lives.
I would say one of the things, too, is that the last couple of weeks we had the Governor's Summit on Mental Health. I think that's kind of a common narrative among all of the youth services organizations, and including ours being the Youth Crisis Center, and others like the Yes House, Cathedral Home, Teton Youth Services over in Jackson. We all have the same theme, which is these kids are not only struggling with some behavioral issues, but more than likely there's some underlying mental health concerns, substance abuse issues. And it all ties back to what the governor said in regards to youth mental health. I mean, Wyoming is the leading state when it comes to youth suicides, and these kids really struggle with it. I mean, in Casper, we're starting to see fentanyl in the schools to a large amount, and fentanyl is extremely addictive, and the Wyoming Recovery, I know, is seeing a lot of it. And when the funding question comes up, because I get this question a lot, we don't need to give to you guys because you guys can get funding. You get funding elsewhere, but it's really hard. The current fundraising climate is really tough. Local donors, we're seeing what we call donor fatigue a little bit. I think every nonprofit will tell you that just the needs are great, and when we have discussions with our local representatives and our city governments and our town governments, they just sometimes we have to really convince them of how important we are. And it really falls back on that mental health, the substance abuse, the behavioral health. All that is what we are focusing on at the Youth Crisis Center. We've moved away from that, what Cheyenne talked about, that punishment. That was more of the juvenile justice model. That was a long time ago. We've moved in a clinical direction to where we're going to support kids, provide them with life skills training, provide them with emotional support, social emotional training, behavioral support, mental health support, all of that. And I think that's the big thing, is that, we can give money to lots of different causes, but in my mind, providing money to organizations like ours who are critical for our community, there's no greater calling than helping the kids.
And just even to play devil's advocate, it might be an investment worth making for people who are just concerned that, this is, we're giving this money away, but it could really be an investment in saving taxpayers money down the road when people end up in the system, et cetera.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And what's interesting is a lot of people that really know what we do had never had any interaction with us until they brought a kiddo here or knew someone that did. We've got several board members that are board members because of the fact that, they utilized our services. I would encourage you to reach out and talk with Gary Lathrop. He's one of our longest standing board members. He's a huge advocate for the Youth Crisis Center and has been around for a long time. And he has a real passion for our center, and that's why he's remained on the board.
And when you talk about substance abuse, do you find that most of the time these are children who are kind of a part of a cycle, that it's in their family, it's a pervasive thing?
Yeah, it is. It truly is. I mean, we talk about that cycle in law enforcement being a cyclical, not only with substance abuse, but also like domestic violence and stuff. It's all kind of learned behavior, and the substance abuse is not only a seen and learned behavior, but it also is an addictive situation for these kids. And I think that there is a strong correlation between those. So oftentimes when kids come to us, they not only have a mental health concern, and it could be a small one or a big one, but there's also oftentimes a substance abuse portion onto that. Maybe it's vaping, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs of some kind. Or their parents have a multitude of mental health or behavioral health or substance abuse issues. And it all just kind of wears down on these kids. It's like stacking bricks on top of each other. Eventually, that load gets really heavy.
Would you say that you've seen an uptick in homeless or runaway youth?
Yes. I think the COVID pandemic was a huge issue when it comes to mental health for youth, and I think we're seeing a lot of kids struggle with that, and we are seeing a lot of kids come to us. I mean, we work very closely with the Natrona County School District, and I want to give praise to them and their efforts and everything that they're doing, because they do a fantastic job. And they really work well with us, but they are also seeing a lot of truancy issues, a lot of expulsion issues, suspension issues, and really, we work hand in hand with the school district on a lot of this. We don't try to do our job on our own. We partner with a lot of people. So, I wanted to mention what we call a Pathway Home program, which is a program that we're trying to work with the state in order to get up and running here. But we wanted to do it in partnership, not only with us, but with the Central Wyoming Counseling Center and our other partners, including the Natrona County School District, Mercer Family Resources. Anyone that can help us is who we're going to bring into it. But there are a lot of kids that go out of state or even in state to what we call extensive inpatient treatment. Well, one of the things about that is that when they're done with that inpatient treatment, it could be a month, it could be 2 months, sometimes it could be 6 months to a year. It just depends on how in-depth that treatment needs to be. A lot of times these kids will roll back into their community and not have any place to go other than back home. Well, a lot of times they're set up for failure because we haven't integrated them back home. It's just we've dropped them right back into the situation that they left. So the idea and we're working on trying to find funding for this, but the whole idea is that we would partner with Central Wyoming Counseling Center to provide, basically, we wouldn't call it a step-down program, we'd call it a reintegration program back into the family and the community setting for these kids. So a good example is if they come to us, CWCC would monitor their medical stuff with their psychologist, a lot of their their focused clinical therapy. We would do case management, and then the school district, they would either do school here, or if it was appropriate and say the clinician said, hey, I think it's time for this kid to go to school 1 day a week or 2 days a week, we would get them to school, ensure that they're doing the things we need to do in school, and then when they're at the facility, help them do their education while they're at the facility. And in addition to that, the most important part of it is working with the family through family therapy, parenting classes, because that would all be part of an agreement with the parents that to have a kiddo here in this program, we want you to work to help make the family situation better. So those are just kind of the outside of the box thinking on a program that we really do believe would work. And we actually, we didn't think about this program until we were approached by the Central Wyoming Counseling Center, and they said, we have a real need. And that we designed the program and put in for it. We did apply for an innovation grant with the state, but we were unsuccessful in getting that grant. So we're still looking for funding to get that program up and off the ground.
And have students expressed that there's like a stigma attached to being someone that's in a homeless shelter? How do you guys address maybe that mental concern?
This is a high concern for a lot of these kids because that's a straight avenue to bullying. But what we have to explain to these kiddos is it's not always them. There's so much that is around these kids as to why they are here. And I think sometimes they just lose focus with that. And, a lot of the time it is their parents, and it's, again, learned behavior, so they don't know any better. So that's why they're with us, so they can get that help. And that's why their parents are involved with any programming that we do, is to help not only the kid but the family. So we just have to kind of recenter the kid to let them know, like, you're not a problem. You're just you have a different path. You've had a hard deck of cards given to you, and so you just have to work with what you got.
I would say it's true of a lot of kids that come here. When their time is up, or when they're moving, when they're checking out, or they're being sent back with the family, a lot of kiddos are very appreciative of being here because of the fact that we do care about these kids and want the best for them. And really, it's an environment that they sometimes don't see at home.
Well, and off of that, they, if kids do find out that they're going to be going home, you will see self-sabotage, where their behaviors will immediately decline because then they want more help. So then they get to stay here longer. We see that a lot, and we are able to catch it and try to mediate that. But it is very true. They will see that self-sabotage because they see us as a safe place, and they see that they have food and they have clothing and they get to school. So they have their basic necessities that they need. So as any human, you would want to stay that course. So that is challenging for these kiddos.
And then I imagine if they're 17 but turning 18, that could be kind of bittersweet, because then are they effectively on their own at that point?
Yes, and so what we do is, especially when we have kids that age, we work with independent living, and that's and USI, yeah. So the
Unaccompanied Student Initiative, yep.
Yep. So we work with them, and we really try to get these kiddos prepared for their next step. So we want them to get a job. We hold them accountable for those things. We set some programming aside so we can get the more important basic skills that they need to go into their next step in life. So anything that we can provide these kiddos, we do, and we try to make them more independent quicker because of we might be in a time crunch before they turn 18, and then they can't be here anymore. So that's what we really do, try to help them.
But we try to work with our community partners like the USI, the Unaccompanied Student Initiative, and Independent Living to ensure that these kiddos have a place to go.
Yep.
Or sometimes they'll move on to different things like the
Job Corps.
Job Corps is one where we'll see a lot of kids go. We don't like to just kick them out the door. We want to try to make sure that we have that plan for them and give them options before they hit that 18 mark.
Anything else that you want to share with the public?
I really just want to thank everyone for their support. I know that we don't do a lot of, by nature, we can't share a whole lot of information about our kids and what we do, but it's an important part of our community. I know people don't know a lot about us, and, we have to educate folks, and including some of our folks at, some of our government entities. And I just want to thank all of those people, including our city council members, our town council members, our mayors, for all of their support.
This has been Report to Wyoming, presented in the public interest by Town Square Media.